My name is Hannah Nicholson. You're breaking up a wee bit, but it's not. It's fine. It's doable. I was 33 yesterday. It's 29th April, and I was born in Shetland. I'm from Bray in the North Mainland. I have a thing for tattoos and selkies. Selkies are mythical beings. Basically, it's like a seal who can, when they kind of come on, they kind of, if they venture onto dry land, and they can like shed their skin and kind of present themselves as humans. And they're a big part of folklore in Shetland, and in fact in like certain parts of other parts of Scotland as well, and in like Scandinavian countries as well. So my most recent job that I held was working in a school library here in Aberdeen. I'm not doing that. I'm still kind of looking for something else now, but I'm also a writer, and I'm one of the winners of the Scottish Book Trust New Writers Award for this year. So I've kind of got that to keep me going right now in terms of something to do. And I also volunteer in a charity shop. So I wrote a short story a couple of years back, again focusing again on Shetland folklore. A creature called the Wolver, and it's like this kind of it's sometimes kind of erroneously referred to as a werewolf, but it's not a shapeshifter. It's like it's a human it's got like a human body and a wolf's head, but it's a benevolent creature, and it used to leave fish on the windows of poor people. And I came up with the idea of the Wolver kind of reappearing in Shetland in the modern day, when obviously folk are subsisting on food banks and unemployment's been kind of high and stuff. I sent that story in, and they liked it enough that they decided to deserve an award. So that's pretty cool. Never been a card carrying member of a political party, to be honest. Obviously, I use my vote every time an election comes up, but I don't card carry for a particular party. Can I go just quickly go get more water? Oh man, that's hard to say, to be honest. It's just something that's always been there. I couldn't really tell you. I don't know. It sounds really minor, but I don't know. I guess it's watching the BBC as a kid, and remember in the 90s they used to say this is BBC Scotland on 1 or BBC Scotland on 2. That sounds like a really small kind of insignificant detail, but that's just, I can remember that as a kid, BBC Scotland on 1. That's how they put that. I think that's probably my first idea of like Scottishness that I can think of. It. I'm definitely Shetlander first and then Scottish for sure. Shetlandic is the term I've heard used to describe the dialect we speak, usually by folk who are from. I do use that term myself sometimes just so folk know what I'm on about. Because if I just write Shetland dialect, saying speaking Shetland, folk just think I'm weird. So it's easier to say Shetlandic because it's more like a defined term that folk can understand. So its coordinate is something like 60 degrees north. I mean, that's something you'll see kind of sighted around Shetland a lot, because that's sort of where we are. Longitude wise, it is further north than both Moscow and the southernmost point of Greenland. So that should give you an idea of just how cold it is. So that's fun to deal with. And yeah, in terms of getting to Aberdeen, most of your kind of transport links to the mainland go to Aberdeen. There's obviously flights to Glasgow and Edinburgh as well, but you can either fly to Aberdeen, that takes just over an hour, or if you get the boat, that's like an overnight ferry, so it takes 12 hours. So your boat will set off at, say, 7 o'clock at night and arrive in Lerwick like 7 o'clock the next morning, pretty much. Well, I don't really know. I guess it's just all these. From what I can tell, watching it so far, it mainly seems to be kind of just personal vendettas. I mean, they sit and bang on about stranger danger, but I mean, half the time when folk are murdered, they're murdered by somebody they know. And somewhere like Shetland, which is so small, that's fairly likely to happen, let's face it. So, yeah, but at least in Aberdeen I can hide from folk because there's more people, because there's 250,000 folk here, and there's about 1/10 of that on my island if you're lucky. So I just come here and hide. It's awesome. Jonathan Sutherland, who presents for BBC Sport, on BBC Scotland Sport, he's from Bray. An actress called Sandra Vo, who actually did appear in the series Shetland. I think she did a lot of kind of voice acting stuff. And she's the mother of Candida Doyle, who played keyboards in Pulp, which is Candida Doyle has a Shetland connection. In fact, Pulp, I think, came to Shetland and played a gig before they got properly famous. So, who else? Norman Lamont, former Chancellor, was born in Shetland. He was brought up in Edinburgh, but he was born in Shetland. Robert Allen Jameson, who's a writer, he's based in Edinburgh now, and he actually used to teach at Edinburgh University, retired a little while ago, but he's originally from Sanus in the West Mainland.
Okay.
Oh, Stephen Robertson, how can I forget Stephen Robertson? Where PC Sandy Wilson, originally from Vidlin. Hellish. I had so many big plans for last year. In Shetland, we have obviously up Helier, which used to just be kind of like one festival, is now mushroomed into like a small season of them between January and March. And I was due to go to the one in Delting, which covers like my area and the surrounding villages. It's kind of hard to explain. But I was due to go to that. There was a guy that I went to school with who was meant to be the Geyser Jarl that year, and that was all very exciting. And I was bringing one of my friends from uni. I studied at Strathclyde Uni in Glasgow as an undergrad. And one of my best pal from my uni days was meant to be coming up with me because she hadn't been to Shetland in a few years, not since I'd moved back to the mainland. And I was hoping to bring her up, and we were going to have a great time. And then it was like the couple of weeks before all that, then somebody went on holiday to Italy and brought COVID back, and it suddenly kind of became a really big deal on the island. And I think we had something like the highest number of cases per head of population for a while. I think, like, and obviously you can look at like population, kind of what am I trying to say here? The kind of the proportion of like people, then were number of cases like came to be higher per head than I think even some like cities were. Do you know what I mean? That like it's kind of in terms of in terms of population, we had like a large, really worrying number of cases. So they basically had to cancel that Up Helier festival, and then same way they cancelled the folk festival. And there was a heap of, because I'd been home for Christmas that year and had gone back shortly after New Year. I didn't come back to the island until August because everything was in lockdown. I probably could have swung it as essential travel because I was on furlough from my then job. I used to work as a cleaner at Aberdeen Uni, and I probably could have swung it as being essential. But the thing is that I would have just been bored because there was nothing to do because the island was shut down too, and so I just thought I'm better off just staying in Aberdeen and continue to pay rent on my flat and stuff. And but so like I say, I mean, I've really just not been home much at all. Even at Christmas, like I was only home from something like the 23rd to about the 2nd of January. Like I'm usually home for far longer than that at Christmas. Up Helier is a festival that celebrates kind of like Shetland's Viking heritage and kind of Scandinavian connections, but it started in kind of the late 1800s, and again, it used to just be the festival in Lerwick, but in more. So the idea is that there's a squad of men that dress up as Vikings, and the Geyser Jarl is kind of the one that leads them. He leads the whole procession, and so they kind of go around, so they light up all these torches, and they kind of march around the area with a large wooden galley that they spend pretty much the entire year building, and spend the entire year in their costumes and stuff too. And they lead this big procession of people, and they basically kind of lead the galley. Well, in Lerwick, they lead it into the centre of a play park. That's not a joke. The rural Up Heliers, including the one in my area, actually burn it on the water. It was meant to represent a Viking funeral, and Viking funeral would have happened on the water, not in a play park. But they basically just lead the galley to its resting place, chuck the torches in, leave it to burn, and then there's all these like halls open at local venues, and the squads go around and they do an act. Let's say they'll do a dance, or they'll perform a comedy sketch, or they'll sing a song, and they're all in costume and stuff as well. But it's usually kind of related to sort of local or national or international news, like the kind of sketches and dances and stuff. It's one of those things that you have to kind of experience it to believe it. It's a very odd festival, but it's good fun, and you usually end up kind of catching up with folk that you haven't seen for years. So